Lakho mnganwa Yilungelakho mnganwa Lakho mnganwa Yilungelakho mnganwa Lakho mnganwa Yilungelakho mnganwa Oma yakhe timpolompo Yilungelakho mnganwa
Hello Maspotise babukeli sinamkele kwinkqubo yethu Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right. Sinphakela yona ke ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Igama lami kalungu Sisanda Jonas ke nisicela ke niphawule babukeli ukuba namhlanje inkqubo yeshicilelweyo ngaphambili koko sizokwazi ke ukuthatha iminxeba yenu. Kodwa ke ningasithumelela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za kanye ke nisifumane ku Facebook okanye ku Twitter. While South African consumers remain under pressure, this festive season is likely to be the more reason people need to spend sparingly. This especially with the e-toll expected to add more burden to our cost of living. That is why consumer rights activists insist that we should spend wisely by planning our spending and sticking to our budget, and most importantly, not to entangle ourselves with unnecessary credit. Okunqola ke kabanzi ngokubaleke ngokuba ke singabathengi sichitha imali ngononophelo nobulumko kule holide masamkele ke indwendwe zethu sino Omar Amaru yena ke ovela ke kwi-office yomxazululi izingxaki zabathengi Consumer and Goods and Services Ombudsman. Sibe naye ke noThami Bolani yena ke umele umbutho lwela amalungelo abathengi i-Consumer Fair. We also welcome uPhumeza Mlungu yena ke ovela kwi-Commission echophela amalungelo abathengi National Consumer Commission. Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to our program. All right, our topic basically is spending wisely, and selelo xesha ke ngoku apha abantu funeke siba bongoza sibanqonqoza ukuba basebenzise imali yabo ngendlela eyiyo. I mean, let me start with you Phumeza on the psyche and the consumer patterns in terms of spending this time of the year.
Enkosi kakhulu asana ngombuzo wakho. Size consumer protection agencies siyafumanisa intoba abathengi babe excited kakhulu apha kwixesha le festive season. They get a lot of pressure from business. Business wants to make a lot of money. So I understand uba abathengi kakhulu baba nemali extra. There is that 13th check ibonus umuntu ayifumanayo. Abanye babe save via izitokfel nomashoni nemigalelo so bayagqiba ngoku imali ininzi ngoku. Abantu ke ngobaba excited balibala into but there is still a tomorrow that they have to think of. So bangena ezingxakini ezinkulu thina ngoJanuary sibe sidishana ne-complaints ezininzi ke ngoku abantu befuna ubuyisela ezantu bebezithengile. So kuye kube njalo kakhulu nge-festive season.
All right. Buthami, when we bona njani lento le psyche yabantu yabathengi around this time?
Well, festive season is a crazy period. Abantu bafuna ukuspenda, abantu they want entertainment, abantu they want to travel, abantu want to make money. So there's a lot of activity. It's good. It's also good for the economy of the country because consumers need to spend so that the economy can grow. But people need to spend wisely. Because 2014 abantu bangasithole bekuma problem. This is the same message we give every year. Are they listening or not? It's another question. But we need to keep on trying.
All right. I mean, again, this is a message just mane sihlala sikhupha unyaka nonyaka ne campaigns ezithi zivele ngalamaxesha. Abantu bayeva?
Nanto ngayibona Sisanda gore the message says amangudi fitisa via media or either way, but pay attention. And in Terry Buang from the Office of Consumer Goods and Services Ombuds, people must educate themselves via online, get them more the websiting so that they will be able to know who are the shops or who are the people which are reputable. Because umati surprise is not going to help you. They know how to deal with complaints. When you go online, you can Google, okay, before how do they give customer service and how do they deal with complaints? So that if ever you know.
Phumeza ndibuyele kuwe ndibuze bana kubaluleke kangakanani umuntu azame ukuplana ibudget yakhe ngelixesha.
It is very important sisanda ukuthi abantu abathengi mabaplane accordingly, because kaloku there is always uJanuary that we have to save for. Abantwana babuyele esikolweni funeka abanye bangena ezikolweni iuniform into ezinjalo. And when we talk about the budget, asithethi about being stringent and coming up with a table and formulas and whatever. There is ways where umuntu mhlamba sithi xa ifumenele imali yakhe ayithatha ayifake ku-envelopes. I have separate envelopes where uzothi le entertainment. If ndigqibile le imali lapha kule envelope, I'm not going to go and undertake any entertainment. Le envelope is for transportation. Le envelope is for my airtime for the festive season. If ndigqibile up and so then ngene kwezinye envelope, because I've already apportioned imali yam accordingly. Kwenza into ba kungabikho la nto ba umuntu azibone se overspendile. And naxa yothenga ungami imali eninzi apha kuwe, because we tend to be impulsive in our spending.
And I also wanted to look at the dangers of those impulsive purchases. But I mean, it's well and good to say let's plan, we'll have this budget, but how many times do you have a list with you and you go overboard and buy the things that are also not on that list?
Injalo, it is human nature. That's why we always have to remind people ukuthi plan. It's not easy, but then people must get themselves accustomed. Bakwazi into ba funeka beplanile because nguye umuntu ozawuba sengxakini come beginning of the year.
But uphumeza usichazela ubana mhlawumbe indlela onoyenza ngayo lento kuba envelope yakho apho uzazi ba wena uzokwazi awuzosebenzisa imali engapha yakwaleyo ibudget leyo. Ilula kangakanani na lento ngoba kaloku ngoku sigqibo uthetha ngobana kukho indaba se-e-toll, kuzabakho indaba petrol ezinyukayo, ukutya okunyukayo, uzayenza njani lento?
Well, akulula, but if you need discipline. And if you need discipline, uyakwazi ukuyenza. About 3 years ago, saqala icampaign ukuthi abantu mabefuna ukusavela uChristmas, festive season, abangasave kuphela ngoDecember or November. Abaqale in January, maybe take 5% your salary yabo and say, this is for the festive season. And if you do that, it works. Uthathe ama-stockpiles. Ama-stockpiles are a good example of what you can save for a festive season. Uthola ukuthi ama-stockpile, they start in January, but save, and then end of November, sebahlukaniselana le mali, and then go do shopping yonke for the festive season. So if we plan kahle lento starting at the beginning of the year, ungakwazi ukuyenza.
I mean into siyibona kakhulu, especially ke kuthi ke bantu bamnyama ke ubani ngayibeka ngolo hlobo ngobana ufika uDecember sohlulelana na ngegrocery, and which is a good thing. Kube khona indaba yezistamp, abantu umuntu akwazi usave unyaka wonke, ufika uDecember ukwazi uthenga ngezi stamp. Ibaluleke kakhulu lento omane.
Yeah, very much. How wenze budget how like sisiphumeza sizatshilo udule moyona uska kuri excitement air festive season iska wetsa gore ube motho o leng gore o change the plans sa high, you know, but runa re are deprive batho ba ska be such a letter like abdita bisa chilo but abatsamaya ba reka runa re from our office before u kana mo any contract uska kena mo contracting because o kotropong you think eriki kene mo shopong eso ki bule account, because ubula account needs your whole focus, because usantsel u go through that contract go lika usane ha ibe dintwa dia tsama hantle u khona o tseba gore mara contract itse. So message wa rona to the consumers out there kore please before u kena mo contracting even though we planning from khale gore ka tsa le so ke tla ile bula account so that you give yourself time. The last time ana re bua re utlile batho ba bua gore the consumers di phone gore di shop a di re finako ba vele ba obele form ba re sign up mo ke tikileng teng. No, it's not supposed to be like that. Really bona banka advantage because ba re bona gore tatile, we are in a hurry, you just want to sign or fuel that product. But we are saying to the consumers, please ha ile bula account dula fatshe o ba le contract ya hao, even if motho re tsang ntho a re go wena o tlo signa mo ke tikileng teng, wena go through that page one by one. Ke message wa rona go batho
Phumeza lixesha le special early discounts uzofumana ku ki sale. I mean umuntu ufuneka enze njani ngelixesha?
Ikubalulekile into ba as consumers sikwazi differentiate between a want and a need. Oyabona, just because it's on special okanye seseleni doesn't, you don't have to buy it if ayonto buziplanile buzazithengela yona ngelo xesha. So we need to exercise that differentiation. Uyazi ukuthi what do I want and what do I need. and zininzi special zona in the market uyabona, but abantu need to exercise the discipline again.
What do you say though, Putami, we specialist fana nobani ungathenga imoto ngokubhatala uqala ubhatala deposit yakho kunyaka olandelayo?
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. I mean, let's say uthenga imoto kuthiwa uyithenga ngale system ukuthi uzoyikhokhela for 3 years, and then after 3 years fanele wenze bulk payment. And we tell you, if you don't have that bulk payment after 3 years, you apply the credit again. And if you credit yakho ingekho right, credit profile yakho ingekho right, you lose that car. So abantu before bathenge ngala specials, it's very important ukuthi izinto bazicabange kahle kuqala before they make those decisions. But at the same time, akhona specials which benefit consumers. You go to one retail store, uthole ukuthi they're selling 2 kg rice for 18 rands. You go to another shop, uthole ukuthi the same brand, the same size, it takes from 24 rand. So if I'm a customer this month, they can go to different places, but compare my prices. And then when they go to shopping, they know, okay, you go shop B, ngithenga rice, then I go to shop A, ngithenga nyama, and then go to shop C and buy vegetables. That can be done. I do a lot of shopping and I do the same thing all the time.
Okay, maskeke sibambe apho ke okwangoku sithi evengeleni, but before we do that, manje nikhumbuze ukubana yena namhlanje inkqubo eshicelelweyo koko ke asizokwazi anizokwazi ukusitsalela iminxeba apha ke e-studio, kodwa ke ngasithumelela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za kanye ke nisifumane ku Facebook or Twitter. Please join us after this. Sinamkele kwakhona babukeli siqhubeke ngencoko yethu, nikhumbule ukuba ningaphawula ngale nkqubo ngokusithumelela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on Facebook or Twitter. Around this time, it's not easy to stick to your budget. I mean, there will be those unseen expenses that come up. How important is it for you to evaluate your situation, look at your income, and also evaluate what you can and cannot afford?
Kubalulekile kakhulu ukuthi abantu, they are always conscious ukuthi how much do they have and then how much are they spending. Kwenza bangangeni kwi-debt trap, because if you are overspend, you will end up ngokufuna ukuthenge nge-credit, and credit doesn't come cheap because there's interest that comes with you buying on credit. So abantu funeka ba-exercise caution ke, and babe careful kakhulu xa be budgeter, and then they try as much as possible to budget, because it's not easy. It's easier said than done, we admit, but we need to exercise discipline and avoid spending on credit that brings about extra costs for consumer.
All right. I suppose, Oma, the message, it isn't wise for you to get into debt just because you want to buy something. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it.
Because if ever usa now ubali peace within you, hore ntwa aki afford, obviously utloes and trailing uspumeza we avoid utlailo apply for credit. And once you apply for credit only under pressure, utloes and tose wrong, because utlola go through that credit form after January, utlobona hore no, this thing inali interesting at. Problem. I've been paying for 8 months, the balance is still the same. Those are the kind of complaints that balance I movie. Then when we go back to the actual contract, the interest rate is too high. So our message go the consumers, please let us make sure we check the contracts. And the other thing, the consumers, we must know, if ever a product cash, product it's until the performer, the purpose by designing yona. That is point number 1. So if ever when you get home, then you realize this thing is not performing what they say it's gonna perform. Then within that period, we say so the supplier cannot dictate terms to you, they are going to repair it. So hence really the consumers must align themselves with CPA, Consumer Protection Act, because that is where their rights are highlighted. What are their rights? So we are urging with consumers, Consumer Protection Act, because according to Consumer Protection Act, whatever that you buy, Italy automatic warranty, guarantee, 6 months. So within that period, you can return that thing. And it also highlights it talks more about your 3 R's. We're talking return, refund, and replacement. So it's up to the consumer to decide, I want refund, I want replacement. The supplier must not dictate to you if we are working within CPA.
Buthambi umthetho ukhona kodwa abantu bayawusebenzisa lo mthetho bayawazi
bayawazi kancane inkinga ekhona ukuthi isikhathi esiningi abantu mabengena ama problems abanandaba nomthetho abantu bakukhumbula ukuthi kukhona iConsumer Protection Act noma khona iNCC noma khona iOmbuds Office noma khona iConsumer Affair uma sebene problem because if abantu bebewazi umthetho ungathola ukuthi 50% ama problems abahlangana nawo abikhona. So that's a problem ukuthi le knowledge lena uyakha kanjani kubantu wenza abantu babe interested kuma rights wabo at the same time understand ama responsibilities. So education has to be ongoing.
On that point of education, what campaigns are you working on around this time?
Okwangoku during the festive season, as partners in the regulatory sphere, say consumer protection, you understand basibaninzi kakhulu ne abantu aba looking out for consumer rights protection. Sikhona thina singu NCC, sikhona i-provincial consumer affairs offices, sikhona ezinye regulators nazo ezisebenza kule environment like your NCRs, your ICASAs. So what we've done is that we've come up with a campaign. It's called the Spend Wisely campaign. Izoqala ngoku ngoNovember until beginning of the year. So apho sifundisa abantu ukuthi be wise in your spending because January is coming. So we're looking at campaigns where in each and every corner, so we're coming up with consolidated messages.
Okay.
We speak with one voice. Probably if we consolidate the effort and then speak if voice say one and we'll finally manage to get through to consumers.
Zahluke njani kodwa ezi campaigns zalonyaka kwi campaigns zonyaka odlulileyo?
We can only ziyahluka but azohlukanga ncam but ke into esiyenzayo sithi after each and every campaign we sit down and evaluate ukuthi what has worked for us and what has not worked, what has not worked. One of the areas the campaign is focus areas the campaign is where we do workshops sihlale nabantu and then at the end of the workshops we evaluate ukuthi is the information that we communicating to people are they getting it and would they be willing to come again for workshops zethu esizenzayo. Kulapho evaluate ukuthi are we being effective or are we not being effective. But like ubutame bechilo, changing behavior, we cannot change behavior of consumers overnight. We have to be constant in our education messages so that eventually people start to get it. And it's difficult again because you only use it when you are in trouble. You don't think you need it until you are in trouble.
All right. How important is this financial education? I mean, especially to abantu bethu. I mean, uqalele ebantwaneni ungathi mhlambi into yethu thina as consumers ngoba bayiqale ebuncincini. If you start at a young age, obviously uzokhula nayo lento ukwazi na uyazi ibudget yakho ihamba njani na.
Ukwanete mo ibutlhokwa haholo taba ya gore re gona plana taba tsa ditšhelete re ntwengwe re ka ishebisang re cheka batswadi re le batswadi a re ruteng bana go plana ngwana wa gona o bona haibe wa freestyle mo tabeng tsa tšhelete a ke re o tla ra o ile le yana ko di shopong ha re batla se wa morekela ha re batla se. So in that way le yana ana le tšhelete ya hae o tlo spenda like that but ha o gona mo bontsha gore ha ne re tswa ko gae azang re tlo reka ntwe. So re stika montong ene re tlo ireka that will help also gore ha re na le bana re be the example so that le bona ba tlo gona catch up from that.
All right, as consumer fair, I mean, how important again to have this message going straight to primary schools, you know, where these kids can be taught at school how to plan their budgets.
Okay. Tina, as consumer fair, what we've decided to do is to focus on one specific thing. Because we believe that if we focus on just one thing, our chances of success are much higher. Now, 2 months ago, we get a message from somebody in Mamelodi, which, you know, Mamelodi people are in serious trouble. Why Ponzi and pyramid schemes are back big time. 2 weeks ago, I go radio, and I'm talking generally about challenges facing consumers and people in KZN around Durban. But hey, in the townships, the pyramid, the Banoi, and the Ponzi scheme are back. And during this period, to December, that's the most dangerous period for Bantu Banimali. So people want to invest. And abantu, they come and promise people all sorts of things. What if you invest your 1,000 rands, you'll get a 100% return? Yeah, and it's not true. That's why if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
So I want to tell people, look, if you want to invest, don't invest in Ponzi and pyramid schemes. Invest in associations that are licensed by FSB so that your money is protected.
All right, for now, let's take another ad break. Welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right here on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Sabeleke Ngama Nengoko Yetu. Earlier on, we were looking at the issue of educating kids at schools about money and the importance of that. The kind of programs that you are embarking on with regards to this.
See, National Consumer Commission, it's abantwana. It's one of our primary target groups. Siyasafumana intoba we are sinyanzelekile ngokomthetho, which is the Consumer Protection Act, iyatsho ukuthi masiba prioritize abantwana, abantu abakhulileyo, which is seniors, abantu abadisabled. So kwicala labantwana sesaqoma makhe hlale phansi sibone ba yintoni esinoyenza abantwana kwenzela into ba we breed i-consumers at the end of the day ezakwazi unavigate market singangeni kwezi traps thina singena kuzo thina, because thina we only learn about consumer protection ngoku sesibadala. So sine partnership nesikolo kuthiwa Sunnyside Primary Pretoria. So what we did with Sunnyside Primary was that we targeted abantwana abaku grades 4 to 7 to say let's form a club. So it is a pilot project okwangoku usifuna ubona bizahamba kanjani na, but the intention is for us to introduce abantwana to the consumer protection rights as early as possible. We're looking at a situation where abantwana become advocates nasemakhayeni wabo. Xa mama mhlambi ehambe yothenga akwazi ukuthi but mama they didn't give you a receipt. You have a right to get a receipt. When you have to return something mhlambi ebolile or whatever, you have a right so we did learn about it with Consumer Club yethu esikolweni. So far we have launched the very first one, which is the Sunnyside Primary Consumer Club, and then we're looking at having workshops nabantwana, having a quiz sessions nabantwana to test your understanding yabo, your knowledge on consumer rights protection, and eventually we want them to go with us because initiatives of consumer rights. Like for instance, if we have a conference, they become part of the conference. If we go out on a blitz, they become part of that, so that the consciousness yabo is raised as early as possible.
All right. Pilot project here is just within this school. Time frames and uzithini kwenzela ba le nkqubo nikwazi uyisa throughout the country.
Financial year. For this financial year, we are establishing a blueprint when we eventually roll out what is it that we must look out for? How best is it for us to roll out a project? So, but we've set ourselves a target again. Each and every year there must be a new school that we get onto the program. There must be a new school that we get onto the program.
All right, but Tammy,
yeah, sure. I wanted to say, one of the things to encourage, especially with our members, and the one that go radio on a daily basis, is that there's theory and practice, and we need to be able to separate the two. Sure, abantwana bazofunda esikoleni about how to manage money, their finances, but at the same time, finally by practice alone. Give an example. Say, city, shophela abantwana around Christmas. Ungabashopheli wena as a parent. Give them money in a shopping center, for instance. It's okay. Now 1,000 wako, now 1,000 wako. We'll meet at this spot in 2 hours time. Go do your own shopping. And if you have 5 kids, when they come back in 2 hours time, you will notice these kids, they don't behave the same way. You know, omunye with 2,000 uzobuya with a bag full like this. Omunye uzobuya na 2 things bought very expensively. So you need to be able to say, bantwana nai theory, this is how you manage finances, but at the same time start them young. They practice and force them to have a bank account. They must save money every month, you know. And then we are shopping about tengela, but when you go do groceries, don't go with them.
Mhlawumbe sithethile about the consumer psyche, about the patterns ne ndiyafuna if sinozohlula ke consumer ezizethu ngoba nabathenga kakhulu ngabantu abadala ngabantu abatsha okanye akho mahluko. There's no difference.
Okay, from the way Dilanka think the complaints, I must say gore ke batho ba baholo ba rekang ke batho ba baholo ba rekang, though le batho ba bantjha ba reka, but batho ba baholo ke bona ba ratang ho etsa shopping hantle. And like Osphumezana se sa tshware taba ya di receipt, ke yona ntho re batlang ho e fitisa ko di consuming gore this festive season re kopa gore ba be hantle di receipts. Like earlier on ke le ka bua ka defect product, if ever whatever that you've purchased in a defect o ikhusetsa ko morao, make sure that you've got your receipt and make sure that imo packaging original. The package must be original, because always supplier how o return anto setsi o intse ko packaging ya teng ba o bolela gore ba batla the original package. So we are saying please just save the original package and your till slip, so that if you happen to have a complaint, then basai handler hantle. When you come to us, those are the things that we want to see. Reatisa go ba bolela gore keep your records, have a paper trail, so that how tla ko platform ya ombudsman, we are able to say, you are able to give us all the receipts, and then we can follow up with the supplier. And in turn, we the consumer, these teachings consuming failure. We are also doing it with the supplier, because the suppliers, the owners of the shop, have to know what is it that Consumer Protection Act say. What are the rights of the people who enter into my shop? You know. So the other thing, when I say buy in reputable shops, always look for those shops selling a decal more window, your consumer ombuds. Then you know if something goes wrong, they are able to handle your complaint. Just go online, check for our members. They are listed there. All the shops that are under ombuds, they are listed there. Right. So you know who I know. All right.
The reason why I've been in terms of their spending as well, there was a report that came out, and it revealed that young people, or rather students, actually admitted to owning credit cards. I mean, if a student owns a credit card, they're not working, obviously they are going to fall into debt. I mean, do you, as NCC, do you get such complaints from young people who are over indebted, who can't pay, who can't make repayments?
In terms of debt, again, over indebtedness is jurisdiction, the National Credit Regulator. But I can make a comment indeed. It is a bit reckless for banks and for businesses to go out and give abantwana besikolo credit cards, because kaloku bafaka debt trap. Ufumanise bangoku abanye ngoku sebefuna umsebenzi abakwazi ungena emsebenzini because kuthiwa your credit profile, we can't take you because you've got a bad credit profile. So it is important ke abantwana bangangeni nabo kwezo. I know abantwana baba hyped bafuna the brands and zonke zo zinto students specifically, but they must not get into it, and banks must exercise caution not to be reckless in their lending.
All right. Please stay with us. Samkele kwakhona babukeli, nikhumbule ukuba namhlanje nizokwazi ukusitsalela umnxeba apha e-studio ngoba inkqubo yanamhlanje yeshicilelweyo. Siqhubeke phambili ke ngencoko yethu. Ndiyafuna ke sijonge mhlawumbi imizekelo abantu abanokwazi ukuyenza ke ngoku xa sesisithi spend wisely, plan ibudget yakho. Maybe let's break this down on planning ibudget yakho. Buthabe manqale ngawe ndibuza uba what do you include when you are planning your budget?
Well, budget is simple. If number one, fanele wazi ukuthi how much money are you earning? Let's say you are earning 10,000, so you'll say this is an income, it's 10,000. Then expenditure, so a paper, for instance, so we double part with income and then this side is expenditure. So we have with one, but daily rent is 1,500. Imali transport is 1,500. Gas in a month, maybe that will take you up to 7,500. So while it's still low my expenses, then so we have with okay, imali salayo, as we say, is 2.5. Then how much am I saving? Imali ngizoyisebenzisa for Christmas. If ngibudget 1,000 rands for food, then I must make sure ukuthi mangothenga I keep within that budget ka 1,000 for grocery. And it's easy to do that. I mean, for instance, let's say you want to tenga ama beans. You can tenga ama beans are branded, or you can buy no brand beans. In Mapega, it's the same thing. But per tin, you are able to save about 2 rands. So people mustn't think that budget is a very complicated thing. It isn't. It's a simple thing. It's income and expenditure. And if you list all your expenditure items, then you make sure that you stick to them, then you should be okay.
Consumers have a right to information. Look out for the hidden costs, especially when you buy big things like imoto. Research, do your research, or understand eventually what is the actual amount in on an installment sale transaction. So masinga ngene happy to be hyped up kukhona issue ye retail therapy thina kakhuluma lady we get into that trap when you are feeling stressed, you're feeling down, you hamba uyothenga ubuye ne pairs of shoes ezi20 that you don't need. So we need to move away from ezo habits like uputime is ebethetha generic. Like for instance, if you go buy medicine, sinale tendency yokucinga ukuthi when you're buying a generic medication, you're buying something that is inferior. Buy generic and save money.
I mean, the dangers of buying on impulse.
Yeah, ke yona ntho ya hore o tlo ra o fitla ko gae o bona hore ntho ya ntla ke tlhoki wait, but ka hore o bone o no itsa wa fita ko shopong wa bona batho ba bang ba ireka ba re ki sale le wena wa rai highly sale, let me also buy it. The other thing e ke bonang tjeka abti time se asatsana bua ka budget hore ke income le expenditure. Auspumeza uwile ka di hidden cost. Hona le di hidden cost tse practical tse etsagalang go gae. A ke re wa tseba gore o gola X amount, wa etsa income ya hao, wa etsa expenditure ya hao ya di rent le di eng le metsi. Hona le di 50 rand tse tswang tso sa di counting. Those are a killer. Ning o re e ki spoiler ka take away. Unsa 50 rand wa ikenya mo budgeting akere. Ning o batla spoiler ka ing awa ikenya mo budgeting. So those little monies how ka dula hantle wa di counter, they can amount to a big money. Eneng gore ne see mo pampiring ele. So after body 5 days o khotsi, then you go back to that paper. This is how now batho ba losanta ba ya budget ba fila ra ibereki because they don't count those small monies. When you go back to your paper, you say but this paper doesn't work. Most chelta ka kitsibel ilekai because unsisa di chelte tsono sa di kenya mo pampiring el. So bathong a re tlhokomeleng tweo.
Another action one can take is if you haven't saved, because December is the time where abantu bathatha holiday ngayo ne. If you haven't saved for a trip, then don't go anywhere.
Sure, because you don't have money to go. But there's a problem now, which there are some providers. But you can buy an air ticket, get credit, you'll pay after 2 months. You can take a holiday. Iqale Zambia land and is coming into South Africa. No, you can go on holiday. You don't have to pay now. You can pay in 3 months, in 6 months. So even if you haven't saved, you can still go on holiday. So the issue here is discipline. If we don't have a discipline, we can have all this information about everything. But if you don't have a discipline, you can still make big mistakes.
In fact, indlela zilula ngokuzothenga naloma ticket plane ngokuthenga ngekhadi lakho lempahla for one. That's how easy it is, but consumers need not be trapped, you know, in these little things. Watch out for these sales, watch out for these discounts and all of that. I mean, again, another issue I wanted to look at was it's that time of buying gifts. You know, I mean, the spirit of the festive season, it's that spirit of giving. How do you make this work for you in your budget?
I think it goes back to a point that you put you plan for these things. Put aside but this is the money that I'm going to use to buy gifts. I mean, as I Christmas parties where we buy each other gifts, we have to buy abundant gifts. The aim and the key is to save so that you don't find yourself getting into credit to finance those kinds of issues.
Again, indlela yokuba ubonise nabantwana. Ndiyafuna ubuya kwindawo yobana umntana uyakwazi umntana umbonisa ibudget yakho uthi le imali za apha le imali nge-school fees sonyaka ozayo nencwadi zakho nani wena uzokwazi ukufumana i-gifts ke kulonyaka. Ibalulekile nalonto le umntana umbonisa ibudget yakho.
Nakibona ka that is very important. Gore ngwana askaba le di expectations tse siyong. Mwana mo bonse gore tšhelete iso iyakwa and then wena re dumelane gore ka re jara kaofela ara o rekela teki o e ratang re tlo rekela ka November teki o e ratang o ska tla ka story se seng sa okay ke teki plus likavela re dumelane gore tlo rekela la costa only once in a year. So ngwana mo bontshe gore le a dutse le tshomtsa hae ba ba le di fantasies tsa dintho a tsibore mara mama or papa never a look ka yona because umpontse tsore tšhelete e tlo bereka jwang. Yes.
I mean, other tips in terms of cutting out on certain things, I mean, like alcohol, entertainment, what advice would you have for consumers on that?
You know, something happened to Waspa, you know, bottle strike Waspa, and I can never forget it. A black guy walks in and he orders a 21-year-old whiskey. And this is about, what, 3,000? Then behind him, there's this white chap. You know, he's awake. Oh, rich people can waste money. We take whiskey expensive, I saw, I mean, I'm taking 50 rands. But at the end of the day, so again, it all comes back to a discipline, number one. Two, the issue of affordability. Can I afford these things? Because if you can afford it, you can afford to drink a 21-year-old whiskey, that's fine. Buy it if you can afford it. But if you cannot afford it, don't use a credit to buy such an expensive item. So, I mean, I still keep repeating, because I've been in this business for many, many years. Discipline plays a very key role in everything.
Again, I mean, it almost seems like we're going to go over these things, but when do you start to plan your budget, the importance of planning that budget? But Suzoyage, glow point yam after this ad break. For now, let's take our final ad break, and please don't go away. Sikwamkela kwakhona mbukeli siqhubeke ngencoko yethu ejongene ke nokuba sichitha ngobulumko njani na imali yethu kule mnyaka ke izinto ezinzima ngayo kubathengi beli. Buthamini ndiyafuna ubuza kuwe ukubaleka ko plan budget sokuchazile nobungayenza njani budget yakho, but uyenza nini le budget?
I-budget ayina period la iqala khona iphele khona. It's an ongoing thing. Into esiyadvise abantu ukuthi fanele bayenze ukuthi every month you've got to review your budget yakho, because one, maybe salary yakho iyakhuphuka, so certain things change. Ugesi uyanyuka, nama ithola zoqala, that will affect your budget. So you've got to review it monthly. You know, njengoba ngisho kuyanyuka imali oyiholayo, inflation, zonke lezi zinto. So if unga review it monthly, then you're likely to end up having serious problems. So the most important thing, budget, if you're working, you must always have a budget, but review it on a monthly basis. If you do that, then you manage better.
All right, Meza, you told us about this campaign that all the bodies, the consumer bodies are embarking on, but I wanted to find out from you, is the campaign just in December or throughout the year? Because I'm actually thinking, if it is throughout the year, then at least people get used to the idea, instead of just telling them right up about the time when they have money, they have their bonuses and all of that. It could be a problem.
Lay campaign specifically, the Spend Wisely campaign, it is targeted specifically for festive season. But it's the banayendo to a calendar of events throughout the year. Like for instance, January, so a campaign that would kick in there is about fly-by-night schools. Where at the end of the day, as well as accreditwanga and the certificate, and then he does not get employment anyway. So as phase in campaigns as we've got an events calendar. Like for instance, if it's Women's Month, we focus on women's issues. Like for instance, your stock fairs and whatever. So the Spend Wisely campaign is targeted specifically for a period.
And it starts in November.
In November until the end of the festive season, where again we kick in January, focusing on the issues that are prevalent in January.
I mean, abantu ngexesha nabo bafumana bonuses abo imali baninzi okanye uba nemali wena ongakhange uqonda ba unganayo nawe ungazazi ba mawuyisebenzise njani na. What advice would you give to consumers on how to spend these bonuses? How much do they need to save, and what it is that they need to buy around this time? Would you say that it's advisable to buy school uniforms, save your school fees for your kids, you know, around this time as well?
Absolutely. As consumers, around this time, dintho tse tlo re pleasang fela for festive re naganele taba ya January Yes, motoling wise uta sort out taba ya skolo because awubatlu ipona uliko lining ya di loans and whatever the money sharks ubatla tšhelete ya skolo ya ngwana iba nkare you appear as a person o sa kgoneng go plana hantle wa bona because into skolo sa ngwana it's not a surprise ba tsebo re bana ba tsantse ba sekolong re patale school fees so we are urging to consumers gore how thola bonus and into e sa shebing hantle komsebetsing aba u qualify for bonus or for the incentive. Let's make a figure ya 3,000. Chelte ewa ke re una le tax ka mogare wena o tla tsamaya o etsa sekoloto sa 3,000 o libetse re ha itla ele itla ba ile 2 point something, it's no longer that 3,000. So please let us understand and know that there's still SARS which will thing ew. So when we budget, let's remember SARS. And the other thing we want the consumers scoring after everything, maybe you've tried to budget, you've tried to discipline yourself, but those things delayed about over beyond. You ended up seeing yourself go to shopong. That's it. So we are saying ensure that whatever you buy, you keep safe your slip or your receipt. And if ever follow the right channel of complaints. Kala moshopong to complain. And as I said, let's keep the record. The manager you spoke to, the person who assisted you in your complaint, so that if the complaint was not resolved to your satisfaction, when you come to us, then you've got the record, then we can handle your complaint. That's like rights.
Sisphumeza masithethe ngamalungelo e consumers with regards to all of these issues that we are talking about.
Enkosi sisanda abathengi nababukela msho bayakhumbula into bayi Consumer Protection Act iza namalungelo ayi7 but ndifuna emphasize a right to information xa bethenga they've got a right to information. Ask all the questions so that you don't get surprised at the end of the transaction. You've got a right to take a contract lay onansi kufuneka uyisayinile home to have someone explain it to you if I understand kahle. You've got that right. You've got a right to return and to refunds. Xa into ingasebenzi ngohlobo befamba isebenza ngalo yonakele within the first 6 months, you've got a right to return it. And it's your prerogative like omabechile whether ufuna replace, whether ufuna uba unikwe imali yakho back okanye ufuna ilungiswe. And there is this footstools clause. Abantu abaninzi ngoDecember bayawuthenga imoto, second hand cars, and then bazawugeta into a trap where kuzawuthiwa uyayithatha because uyithatha and footstools clause. Even with the footstools clause, the supplier or the business still has to explain to you what is wrong with the car. You can't buy it ingahambi and xa uyibuyisa athi umuntu no because you bought it on footstools clause. The supplier still needs to explain to you what is it that is wrong with the vehicle so that you make an informed decision.
Ingabi khona indawo umuntu anokwazi ukuncedwa kuyo ngeli xesha kanye especially xa usithi ngizawuqala icampaign yenu kaNovember ndiyazazi uba ndizawufumana ibonus yam ndiyafuna uncedwa ngoba ndingayisebenzisa njani imali yam.
I think Bhutan
Commissioner, my office, almost all of them are open. National Credit Regulator, abatile kakhulukazi nalezinto, banama counselors where abantu can get advice ukuthi imali bayisebenzisa kanjani. Our offices are open all the time, asivale as an NGO. But abantu abakwazi ukusiza abantu baplan imali yabo kahle. If you've got a financial advisor, like abantu abathengisa insurance, those people can assist you ukuthi ukwazi ukuyisebenzisa kahle ibonus yakho, for instance. And the message abayinikeza ama-consumers most of the time ukuthi take at least 1/3 we-bonus yakho ukhokhele ngazo ikweleti. Asithi une-bond. If you take 1/3 of your bonus uyifake kwi-bond, leyo bond uyakwazi ukuyi-reduce by 2 years at least because interest yakhatheka. Take another 1/3 mhlawumbe uyisebenzise for entertainment, and then another 1/3 uyifake into your emergency fund. But talk to your financial advisor because some needs abantu awafani, ama-situations wethu awafani. Your financial advisor can understand wena perfectly and bazokwazi uku-advisor better.
Sisoma kuhle basithethe ngohlobo kodwa lento ilapha kuwe mthengi i-discipline ibaluleke kangakanani na?
It's of paramount importance. Ibaluleke kakhulu sisi ukuthi ube umuntu o-disciplined. I-discipline iqala from within. I-discipline anyeke baze bakufundise yona, i-discipline anyeke baze bakuhypnotize. Wena mele usitshele ukuthi mina angithi you know your character, this is me, yinto engahambelana nayo le or into enyenze ngihambelana nayo le. So when as a person you must be able to weigh ama options wakho ukuthi ungayinjenge nge noise ukuthi okay hona le rata kamo e re lena ke mathele kamo he ba re hona le mang kamo lena ke mathele kamo how sa imo a no gawa anywhere o be motho khonang gore no, and no it must be a no, and a yes must be a yes.
All right, xa sesivalelisa usifuna ukuqukumbela yonke lento sithetha ngayo namhlanje ungathini kubabukeli?
Ndizaphina khona ndibe rhetoric ndiphinde ndithi discipline. Masibe discipline kakhulu. Sisebenza kakhulu unyaka wonke sizifumana i-13th bonuses zethu, sifumane nemali zethu esizixobayo kwi-stokvel. Masizisebenzise with caution. Siyazi into yoba uJanuary uyeza. Yonke into siyenzayo siyazi sicinga into yoba about the future. Akandiqondi khona umuntu ofuna uzibona kwi-debt trap, angene kwi-bad credit listing, aphela ngakwazi ngoku yena uthenga utransactor in the market going forward.
Alright, inkosi kakhulu ke. Hayi ke mbukeli masibambe apho ke njengoko siphelelwe lixesha ndibulela indwendwe zethu ngokusiphake ulwazi nethuba lazo ngalomba ke ubaleka ngakakuthi sonke singabathengi. Bami ngazibini ke kuni nonke babukeli ukuba nathi ke kude kubeleli ithuba. Please join us again next Friday for another consumer topic of the week. Ukufumana impinda yenkqubo zethu ke please join us every Monday morning from 9:30 to 10:30. From me, Sisanda Jonas and the whole team, it's goodbye. Wishing you a great festive period, and please stay safe and don't drink and drive.
Yilungelo Lakho